We've got probably, if you wanted to say, about 35 minutes. So let's be respectful of trying to get as many comments as possible, because there again, we're looking for the mixture and the mix of how many different types of perspectives can we get in here. So if you have a comment, make a comment, singular, and then let's move on to let somebody else do it. Now, if you want to say that I picked so-and-so to be first, that's fine. Then you can probably reflect on why you did so and give us the comment that you think may have put it over the top. So let's just toss it up, raise your hand, who wants to go first?
Are we doing, sorry, are we doing
And let's
individual
start-
evaluators
yeah,
or
we're
say
going to do individual
evaluators?
evaluators. So we're first talking about Maria. She went first. So if you wish, this is one of those times now, Donna, think about it. If you were going to speak to Maria, you'd have to stand up. You'd have to bend over like this. Can I see you, Maria? So it's important that just because I'm facilitating the discussion, that we do this in a way that honors the spirit of evaluation. If Toby were to say something and I wanted to give him feedback, I'd stand so you all can see me, but I'd want to speak, and I'm going to use this preposition on purpose, with Toby, suggest that we have a conversation. Even if you only raise your eyebrows, it's a response. So if Donna were to speak, because she's sitting down at this end of the table, you'd have to, yeah, just like you're doing, position yourself and say, Maria, here's what I thought. So try to honor that, because for those folks in the back, Terry, you'd only need to kind of bend over a little bit to just see Maria, but others may not be able to see her so well. We're speaking to the individual evaluator. Go ahead, Jim.
Small thing, but some clubs I've been in, the person who's being evaluated stands up.
Talk about fig leaf. I have to say, I actually had to do that in a contest. The guy wouldn't give me the feedback, and I stood there like, and I mean fig leaf. And I thought, I gotta do this for 3 minutes? And I felt like I'm just doing that for 3 minutes. It was terrible. I'd never make anybody do that. Not, Don, I'm not trying to pick on you to go first, but whoever goes, think about it. Speak to Maria. It's her show.
Maria, singers and actors and speakers that are able to smile while they're performing make a better impression than those that don't. When I speak, I usually, if somebody takes a photo, it looks like I'm mad when I'm speaking. You smile the whole time, which I thought was great.
Very good. Thank you. About energy, not about how many teeth you have. No, yeah, that's good reminder. Let's not applause after each other.
Maria, you were on it, but there's no reason to thank the room
Okay,
for doing that.
sounds good. Yeah, we're not going to applaud it.
Yeah,
We'll be here all day. Who else? For Maria. I'm sorry, I didn't catch your first name?
Janet.
Janet, I'm sorry, I did catch your first name. I just didn't remember.
Sorry. Maria, you know I love you. One thing I heard you say is, you should. I've always heard, don't should on me and I won't should on you.
I feel like in a flock of seagulls out there. Yeah, don't look up, because you never know who's looking. Donnie, you look like you're going to say something.
I have just a small comment. In your word choice, you use the word strong a lot. So to have a variety of words to use that are synonymous with that.
Sure.
Oh yeah, I felt like you spent an inordinate amount of time commenting on the content of the speech and missed some opportunities to comment on the wonderful presentation skills that we saw. So, you know, you might want to consider balancing, you know, whatever comment you might have about the content with the actual presentation skills.
Terry?
I like the fact that you were trying to tell Steve a lot of the things that he did well. And I found it distracting that you said to him, you always do this. Because most of it, well, some of us, I don't know, I can only speak for myself, but at least that's the first time I've ever heard him speak. So I don't know what he always does. And the fact that you said he's always funny, and you like that, which is a nice positive comment, but maybe some way to do that made that more obvious to other people. Or, yeah.
Maria, great evaluation, and you tried to use your stage, but I noticed a few times your feet were planted, you just kind of swayed. So you might want to kind of watch and actually move with the stage rather than just sway.
Hello. Go ahead. What's your first name?
Emily. Maria, I love the fact that you kind of nailed the lack of meat in the speech. There was a lot of introduction of what to do but nothing about why people fail to follow through on goals. So I like the fact that you focused on, talk more about what leads to that failure.
You take one more, and then I'm gonna jump in and finish up for Maria. Anybody want one more? Yeah, Rosie?
Maria, I really liked how you pinpointed, the whole story is like really reviewing everything again. So it was very just pleasant that you kind of really got it.
Yeah, I'm gonna finish up by saying, no notes, that's great. Continue that forever. I like the way you've talked about your suggestions for improvements. The one place I heard you say something about could have been done better, I would change that to my reaction and what I'd like to hear, what would work for me better, be sure to include the me in that to the point. Okay, thank you for the comments from Maria. Now, the second up was, who was second? Adam. Okay, so let's go ahead and do the same thing with Adam. Speak to Adam about the comments you have. I didn't catch your first name in there, I'm sorry. David, go ahead, you can speak to Adam.
Great job. One observation was you had your arms up the whole time with your motions instead of dropping them. You had great gestures, but you kind of had to shorten up with them.
Adam, if your speech was a sandwich, I would say that it was a mortadella with fresh mozzarella. Deliciously done. However, I would say that there was a little bit too many toppings, because you had a wonderful positive, then a challenging, then you topped it with a positive, but I noticed at the end that you also went back to the challenging part again. So it would have been a delicious sandwich, just a little too many toppings.
I think they call that a club sandwich.
Adam, I thought you really nailed it when you talked about asking, is there a goal that's been nagging at you that you haven't accomplished? It's a great way to get people to buy in. But at the same time, I found myself confused. Steve, didn't he? Steve, didn't he? Steve, didn't he? I didn't know who you were talking to from time to time because there was too much switching back and forth.
Adam, I thought it was great that you picked up the suggestion of using notes and having the Sergeant of Arms bring them in for you. I thought that was an excellent use of Sergeant of Arms.
That's not much use to you. Very little use to you. Oh, I thought you had a comment. Michael was going to, go ahead, Terry.
Hi, Adam. I enjoyed the fact that you gave a really good demonstration of things that he could have done differently, like the speaking to one person, and you actually did that and demonstrated how that could be done. That was really well. But a little bit to add what Emily said, that it felt more like in the beginning you were giving us a speech on how to do evaluations rather than giving Steve an evaluation on his speech. You have to be careful not to do that third person talking, because that's what it gives people the impression of.
All about me. Go ahead.
Adam, one thing I noticed was the use of the word overall. I counted at least 3 times. It seemed like you were wrapping up and you'd say overall, and then you'd say something else and back to overall. So watch that word, or consider watching that word. But I thought you were excellent with the demonstration of your point about equal eye contact around the room. Because you showed the potential challenge that Steve had, but then you swept and covered the other side of the room. So illustrating through example.
In your heart, I know you.
I wanted.
Hope we figured out how long it takes to clap for each person. Another comment for? Yeah.
Steve, I think that your energy was awesome. I love the way you recapped the excellent energy that Steve brought to the room, as well as that club sandwich that you made. That energy stayed awesome. That made me hungrier and hungrier with every bite that I took. And also that closing and recapping his appearance, as well as your appearance, that energy that you bring to the group was awesome. Thanks.
All right, one wrap up. Keep the notes on the floor for as long as you can. They will eventually lead to notes coming from the heart and the head. Highlighted the use of 3, and that's so important. There's a form that I included in the handout that's called generalized feedback, and a lot of that has to do with, well, did she use or did he use the concept of 3? That's very powerful. Use it yourself. Everybody's been doing it right here. I love what you do, Terry.
Yes.
We do it on dates. We do it when we're breaking up with people. We do it We've already heard about the should. We don't need birds flying in. We don't need anybody flying in and shoulding. So when you're doing something, be careful of the word but. In fact, if you do it right now, if you have a piece of paper, print the word but, put a big X through it. But I'm gonna give you something else, put the word and next to it. Every time you say, I loved your speech, I love the fact that you went over here, and the only thing that got distracting, and is a conjunction, and is the softest word in the universe of our lexicon. So when you do that, there's no but, and I got distracted. It just slips right in there. If you do that, you'll have a much better time at it. I did like, and then I did hear the fact that you did use a club sandwich. So you had your notes. If you stay strictly with the 3 partitions, you will stay a little bit closer to not so much a club, unless you like clubs, and just one big sandwich. This way you can end powerfully with specifics. All right, number 3 was who? Lori. So let's speak directly. And I know Lori, where's Lori? Lori's sitting way in the back. So for those of us next to Lori, we're going to have to do this. But for the rest of us, we may have to turn around. But speak to Lori about her performance. David?
I try to go first so that you don't get my things used up for you. Lori, great body of the presentation. You stumbled into the beginning, you stumbled out at the end. You started off by thanking us, and you missed a great opportunity to end. You said, I could see the enthusiasm, see the passion, I've seen them writing down, go do this, and I'm going to do the same. And then sit down, that would have been maybe a stronger close.
And I'll jump in only here because it's a perfect time to say, instead of saying you stumbled, I got confused, it's all I got, it sounds like me, self-centered, but it isn't, because when you say I, that pronoun says, I'm only speaking for me, not for Jim Sims, not for Toby, just little old me. And it sounds differently than you stumbled. You had an opportunity. I would have liked to have seen you take a lot more words, but it comes from here, and it's softened, but it's still right on task and right on target. Go ahead. Somebody else?
Lori, I like the fact that you acknowledged Steve's strategic pause in the beginning of his speech. That was powerful and it was excellent. It's rarely used. I see it rarely used in our club, but it's a very powerful tool to have. Thank you for that observation.
Lori, the grammar teacher in me, loves the fact that you picked up on the fact that Steve spoke in broken sentences. You start one sentence, start another sentence, stop that one, go back to the first sentence, stop that one before completing and go back to another sentence. So there was a lot of that, but you nailed that right on. Great job with that.
That's true. Donna, go ahead. You're next.
Lori, I really appreciated the good content, and I would have felt there would be more confidence in how you delivered that if your intonation patterns didn't come up at the end. So it's a very Aussie sort of thing that you couch your presentations so that the intonation goes up at the end.
Are you an idiot? Maybe.
That's
So be
one
confident.
of those things. It happens. It's effective feedback to consider and remember because it's personal.
Excuse my back, Bill. Lori, I thought it was wonderful vocal variety. You are an extremely passionate speaker. I liked that you brought attention to when Steve went like this and spoke to someone, as if to isolate some of us. So that was a great emphasis for him, especially if he has a mixed audience. I thought it was wonderful that you would highlight his words just the way he did, and then you were very cautious in a lot of your vocal when you started to emulate what he was about in his speaking. So I thought it was well done.
Lori, I would have liked to see you smile. You were intense, obviously connected to what you were saying, but that sense of owning the podium, it comes with the smile and the presence. And I think that would have imbued a lot more energy into your presentation that would have connected with us.
All right, Mark will be the last one, then I'll wrap up for it.
Lori, one thing I noticed in the beginning, your first sentence or two, is that you didn't seem like you recognized Steve in the beginning. But then I think later on you did start talking to Steve, but at the beginning it didn't seem like you were talking to Steve. You might have talked more to the audience.
Okay, the no notes part, I commented you as we walk down the hall, that's great. The fact that they're in the room should give you some sense of comfort. I know they're here, but they're really here. So you believe in that, run with that ball. Like your suggestions, they were effective. I'm not sure I would make the comment about mumbling. You were mumbling something. I couldn't hear you. It seemed like when you were speaking, your words were such that I could make it on you. I couldn't hear you, I couldn't understand you. That's different than saying you mumbled. Really? He didn't think so. So be careful of that. That's the only thing about saying something. It sounds accusatory, even though I know you didn't mean it, but it's different when you say, I couldn't get it. I couldn't hear it. I'm facing you. I'm actually trying to read your lips as well. Okay, the last evaluators have today was Jim. One more comment?
Jim, I mentioned this to you personally. I love the fact that you evaluated with confidence. And not only were you confident, but you also were humorous. Coming from 1810, it didn't hurt that you commented about 1810. I'm not sure that would play well in a contest, but you're welcome any Monday night at
They love you, Jim. I can't wait for you.
Jim, you had a strong positive evaluation. When you were giving it, you used the phrase many times, I think. Those are your words. We don't need to know that's what you think, because we know that's what you think without using those words. But again, everything was strong and positive.
Jim, wonderful reference on the facts about your statistics and where they came from. Great reference.
Roger?
Jim, I love your delicious, again the food, I love your delicious blend of strength in your words, yet with a very gentle touch. I noticed, however, that, and I've learned this in my previous competitions, it is your hand movements, how they can distract from your message. And when we do this a lot, when we do this, when we do that, then guess where our eyes goes, guess where our attention goes. So as I try to, what was taught to me, I will hopefully pass on to you. Always try to have a positive stance in whatever possible, but use your hands if you're actually going to make a point or types of indications.
Go ahead, Bill.
Jim, I agree. You have good, strong voice, good presence, and I like your confidence. One thing is, I think that you're trying to say a lot of things very fast, and as you're talking very fast, I can hear you. You're talking so fast, it sounds like you've run out of breath. So sometimes maybe you don't get to make every single point you want to make, but not to be frantic about it.
A frantic word. All right. Go ahead, sir.
I'm for it, and Jim, I want to commend you for pointing out Steve's dress. I thought that you were the only person that noticed that, and to come for a Saturday afternoon all dressed up to speak, it really showed that he was committed, so I appreciate that.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah, maybe in contrast to what Toby was saying, I talk fast myself, and I like people that, I listen fast. I get anxious to help people finish their sentences if they don't speak that fast, and you have a good, strong, commanding voice, which makes it easy for everybody to listen to, so.
Yeah, it is kind of personal. Terry, but then we'll wrap up with
Jim,
this.
I enjoyed your evaluation, and I wanted to say that the enthusiasm was fantastic, and some of the comments you made about the other club were lost on me because I don't know anything about that one. One of the things that you did say was, what else can I say? And I know I do the same thing when I'm doing things where I will ask the question I have in my head out loud, and that's great in some cases, but probably not in an evaluation.
Okay, last one before I go.
I like fast talkers also, so that did not bother me at all. I thought you used your arms well. Every time you finished a thought, you finished with a prayer. So that may be one thing you might, right, it was always a prayer, so you might want to consider changing that.
All right, as always, Jim has been a longtime friend and has always been willing to accommodate some of the things that we've taught each other over the years. The notes on the floor, an excellent example of what can be done, even in a contest, even though it seems weird. I love the sense of humor, the fig leaves, the Oreos, the steroids, the whole thing. She's right about the Club 1810. That wouldn't go in a contest, but the steroids would, because everybody knows baseball, or at least knows enough about them. So here's a message to everyone else. Don't be shy about using humor. Don't be shy about having some fun. If your speaker says something funny, there's no harm in expressing that as part of your feedback. If you, once again, go back to the tapes and look at the winners, a lot of them they bring up something that was funny. In fact, last year at the D48, the guy that won, I think that was right, 2012, was a speaker who gave a speech on goals, and I think it was hockey, I'm not sure, it might have been soccer. But he came out and he just did like about 30 seconds of goal! And that's what everybody did. They just went, that's right. She did that. It was so funny. It was humorous. And he got everyone's attention. And then from that point on, we're relaxed, just like in a regular speech. We're with this guy. We're having fun. So if it's one thing I like about the way Jim talks, speaks, it's always, can I have some fun while I'm doing it and still make my points? Good for you. All right, with that in mind, I think, I'm going to leave you about 10 minutes. Is that enough before we get out of here? About 20 minutes, you said?
It's yours.
You sure?
You got the floor, yeah.
Oh, we got
another 10 minutes.
Okay, well, if we've got that, then let's go ahead and, let's just go back to questions, open forum, open discussion. You've got the handout in front of you. If you want to reflect on that, that's fine, but anything goes. Go ahead, any questions?
My question is that when I evaluate the speaker, I want to do a good job for the speaker.
Okay.
And I'm afraid that if I miss a word he says, that I won't have enough information to do a good evaluation. So I find myself with sentences sometimes of trying to catch every, so I don't watch the speakers as well as maybe I should, and don't hear as much.
Sure.
Hit 3 or 4 points when.
Two-pronged approach. Some people say, don't write in the book while he's still speaking. Others say, I can do that, just like you're in school, and you kind of like, you're making a note, you're saying to yourself, I'm still getting what she's saying. I happen to do that. I happen to scribble the notes that I do this size in the book. Then I take that separate piece of paper, just as Adam's done here with a column, and I make real large printed letters about what I'm going to say in terms of feedback. It's a personal choice, yet one that if you don't get some things, you may miss it. We don't all trust our memory. But I say that to you in sincerity, because if you start to trust your memory, eventually you'll get to the point where you go, you know what? I can tell you what you said 12 minutes ago. It's not a trick. It's not magic. It's just paying attention and believing that everything you hear is really in there. I'm doing this because before it gets to CPU, it makes an impression here. I love that. That was funny. Oh, that was really touching. If it is, that's in your soul. Then it gets filtered out through the articulation part of your brain. But remember that. If you trust yourself, you'll need less and less notes. Notwithstanding what you're saying right now. Keep doing what you're doing. Go ahead, Michael.
I was brought up in the school of evaluation, that we evaluated the speech, the gestures, the outline, the construction. And I hear from time to time evaluators evaluating the topic and getting into that. What are your thoughts on that topic versus speaking style?
I don't go to topic, or what I like to prefer to say is content, unless it moves me. But if you tell a story, and it made me feel like I was sitting around the campfire, and I was enwrapped with every word you said, you know I'm going to say that. I'm going to bring up the fact that you brought up this soft chair, your grandma's cooking. That's part of the story. I have no compunction at all about saying, that moved me. That just took me from this part of the chair to that part. There's no harm or foul in that. But it's when we start answering the point. Well, I don't happen to believe that. I think when it comes to, then you're dealing with, you're arguing with, or you're contending with the speakers and speech's points, as opposed to, wow, you really did make those sandwiches sound delicious. And that's the point. That's the whole point. So with temperance, with some degree of moderation, content is part of what you're hearing and hopefully what moves you, what makes you feel something. Otherwise, it's all about, back to your point, too much of this, arms went out too far, they weren't always congruent with what you're saying. There's nothing wrong with